On Chinese New Year's Eve, my parents left me alone at home again, chasing that triple holiday pay. They've been like this for 20 years. I'm done spending New Year's alone and lonely. So, I grabbed some dumplings and went to find them. To my surprise, the parents who always claimed to work extra for more money emerged from a luxury car. They were with a guy my age, laughing and headed to a 5-star restaurant. Mom, Dad, is it cool to just leave Molly home alone? My mom waved it off. It's no big deal, she's used to it. My dad shrugged. She's nothing compared to you. You're our true treasure. I turned away. They were pretending to be poor to deceive me. This time, I didn't even need their company. Once home, I dumped all the food on the table. I would have thought twice before. Growing up, I knew my family struggled financially. Whatever I wore and ate came from my parents' sacrifices. Even my clothes were seldom new. Each quarter, my mom brought home a bundle of second-hand clothes. She'd say, "These are from a colleague's daughter, already washed. No need to buy new stuff." I had no clue where she got those clothes. As a kid, new clothes were rare. I'd often wear mismatched sizes, with classmates teasing me as a rag picker. I resolved to study hard so one day I could buy new clothes through my own efforts. During holidays, any lucky money from relatives went straight to my parents to ease their burden. Who knew there wasn't any burden? I checked, and that luxury car belonged to a city tycoon. His son, who often made tabloid headlines ferrying actresses, was the guy from last night. Wow, turns out I'm a rich heir too. I laughed bitterly, sniffled, and rummaged through my parents' room. They were careless enough to leave contracts at home. Seeing my dad's signature on a billion-dollar contract with a Mont Blanc pen tucked inside killed any remaining hope. I restored everything, went to my room, and buried myself under the blankets. Just wished I'd wake up from this nightmare. The next morning, my parents were busy in the kitchen. I looked at the breakfast table, wondering who drinks seafood porridge this early? The flavor was just like the seafood feast our professor treated us to. I glanced at the trash bag by the door. Bingo! Mom, Dad, did we win the lottery? Sitting at the table, I asked them. My mom looked confused. Molly, what are you saying? So, how did we afford this expensive seafood porridge? I pointed at the trash bag, and my mom's face changed. Dad chuckled. Oh, it's from last night. I worked late with my boss. He treated me, and I brought it home instead of eating it there. Our salaries can't cover seafood porridge like this. So that was it. I nodded, sipping the porridge with growing bitterness. Seafood porridge, $580 a serving? Last night's meal must have cost thousands. If they were truly poor, this porridge would taste amazing. Now it's just bland. 2 mouthfuls in, I stood up. I'm full. Molly, how come you ate so little? Are you feeling sick? Mom's genuine concern showed in her eyes. I shook my head and smiled. No, today we're going to Grandpa's, right? Saving my appetite for a good lunch. Relieved, Mom seemed to relax. Dad looked guilty, about to speak when his phone rang. I glanced at the screen. It read beloved son. Henry, that's his beloved. What about me? Dad excused himself to the balcony, with Mom following. I overheard murmurs about keeping a low profile, and not letting me know. My heart felt icy. They knew everything, yet they were all in on deceiving me. I even suspected my world was a Truman Show, yet they seemed so real. After he hung up, Dad came to me, handing over a red envelope. Molly, something came up at work. I need to head out. Mom reassured me, don't worry, I'll keep you company. I nodded, pocketed the envelope, helped Mom tidy up, and headed for Grandpa's. Once there, Grandpa pulled me in. Molly, come in, it's chilly outside. His hands were soft, not like a retired steelworker's at all. This family housing belonged to the steel factory. Grandpa supposedly retired from there. Yet his privileged manner didn't fit the story. Grandma saw me, immediately passed me a red envelope. Thanks, Grandma. I pocketed it directly, unlike before when I gave the money straight to Mom. Back then, Mom would always say, Molly's so responsible. Today was different. Grandma seemed surprised but then smiled. Are Molly's learning to save her allowances? I raised an eyebrow with a smile. Not quite. Mom said, new year, new ways. I'm keeping some pocket money for myself. Oh, Molly's so sensible. She pays for her tuition and living expenses. I didn't need Grandma to tell me I'd get maybe $500 tops. Insignificant next to tuition fees. Despite being so wealthy, they squeeze me dry. Why target me exclusively for this hardship education? Grandma went into the kitchen, busying herself. As for the meal spread out afterward, it matched last night's 5-star restaurant exactly. Now I was sure. My entire family was wealthy. Parents faking poverty, even grandparents playing along. After lunch, Mom took a call, excused herself hastily. Grandparents yawned, looking sleepy. I knew it was time to head out. But I didn't go far. Instead, I hid around the corner and quietly watched. Sure enough, not even 20 minutes after I left, a limo pulled up. Grandma and Grandpa, surrounded by a group of people, got in and left without looking back. I took a deep breath, put on my mask, and walked up to see a few cleaning ladies tidying up. One of them sighed, saying, "I don't know what's up with this family. They come to stay for just one day a year, cook a meal, and then leave. They sure pay a lot for the cleaning though." Another chimed in, "You don't know. This is how they do it every year, for over 20 years. They've got a villa in the south of the city, just rich folks playing at simple living." Hearing them say this, my heart grew cold. The richest family in the south of the city. Their villa is in the hillside garden. I biked over there. That luxurious villa sat on the hillside, with bodyguards outside. It was a place I couldn't even dream of. As I approached, a bodyguard barked, "Who are you? Get lost." I took a deep breath, and was about to leave when a loud motorcycle roared past. I'd seen online that this type of bike costs around 200 grand. The rider was Henry. He saw me too, and looked a bit surprised. He stopped, checked me out, smirked, and said, "Not bad, you found us." I was stunned. He knew about me. Why? Henry, am I a daughter they adopted? Or am I just a part of some project, an experiment you're observing? Henry seemed to read my confusion. He shook a finger, saying, "Nope, you're their biological daughter. There's only one reason for the humble lifestyle, because I am the sole heir. Molly, you were only born a minute before me. What makes you think you can compete with me? This place isn't for you, so get lost." Poor thing. Don't look at me that way. Mom and Dad put lots of effort into raising you. By the way, stop bugging Grandpa and Grandma during New Year's. They're old and can't keep up with your charade. He sped away and left me standing there, slowly realizing our births affected the inheritance. But what did I do wrong? All I wanted was love from my parents. They lied for years, but the good times were real. Still, seeing that villa and bike makes me wonder how much of their love was true. I turned to leave. Before going, I called Dad. "Dad, are you coming home for dinner tonight?" "Can't, Molly. Got overtime tonight. Triple pay for the holiday." "Your mom's the same." Yet I could hear that bike roaring in the background. I softly replied, already resolved inside. I went home, packed up, and signed up for a special research project. It's a project in the West, isolated for 3 years, away from everyone. After packing, I developed a photo I'd taken of Henry's back and left it on the bedside table. They didn't come home that night. I was alone. I tried calling Dad again, but he didn't pick up. Meanwhile, the company was giving out bonuses, and some employees thanked the boss on social media. One was a regular employee, but scored a 3 grand bonus. Many posted about company perks. My parents were there, Dad in a suit and Mom looking posh with a glass of wine. There was Henry, being the center of attention, and a family portrait. My parents must have assumed I was too busy working to notice online gossip. But I'm just a regular girl, raised simply, of course I'd be curious. A reporter asked Mom and Dad about their New Year plans. Dad said, "My son Henry is 22 this year. We take a trip annually, and today we're off." I felt a pang because I'm 22 too. My furthest trip was a school field trip to a local zoo. I laughed to myself, fondling my household registry. Funny thing, when I went to college, they moved my registration there. Said I was an adult, needed to be responsible. Now's the perfect time to go. I grabbed my luggage and left without looking back. Goodbye, Dad and Mom. Forever. The richest man in the South, Ken, left with his son and wife for a week-long trip. Not once did he call me. On their last day back, Ken finally thought of me but couldn't get through. By then, I was already in the lab, deep in my project. Ken checked his phone, puzzled. Why isn't Molly answering? She's probably still working 2 tutoring jobs. She must be busy, Ken sighed. Are we too tough on her? Henry's the same age, but Molly's really worked hard. Ken wasn't bothered. Molly's independent. At her age, self-sufficient and worry-free for us, you should be proud. She nodded, agreeing. But when they returned home, something felt off. Why didn't Molly do the housework? Their old place was by the road, needing daily cleaning, or it'd be dusty. A layer of dust lay there still. Ken shrugged it off. So what, she might be tired. We'll tell her we got bonuses, so she can take it easy. You must be worried. Of course I worry, she's my daughter too. We sent her a message when we left, but with it being the holidays, overtime and work trips might be hard to buy into. Wendy wasn't bothered. It had been like this for years, and Molly never suspected a thing. But when she walked into the room and saw the picture on the nightstand, it hit her like a ton of bricks. Jimming, something's wrong. You need to come see this. Ken rushed in, and when he saw Henry's picture, he understood immediately. When did she go to the old house? I don't know. Let's call her. But Molly's phone wouldn't connect. They had no choice but to call Henry. The moment Henry picked up, he admitted everything. She came around a week ago. I told her you guys cared for her with all your hearts, hoping she wouldn't run to you with complaints. Hearing this, Ken was furious. Who told you to meet with her? Didn't you know she's unreachable now? A week had passed, and Ken knew they should have realized sooner. Whenever they left, Molly always asked when they'd be back, or if they'd eaten on time. But now, not a single word. Something was definitely off. Meanwhile, Henry on the other end was unfazed. Not being able to reach her is perfect. You kept her impoverished because she supposedly drained my luck. Did you forget what the fortune teller said? Now that she's left on her own, I'm your only child. Isn't it great? Ken was beyond frustrated without a retort. And his wife Wendy was in tears. What do we do now? Molly must have found out about our lies. She'll hate us. Unfortunately, I didn't hate them. I simply didn't have time. I was busy observing lab data. Countless experiments weren't giving ideal results. As soon as I entered the lab, I handed over my phone and no one could reach me. That's why Molly couldn't get through. I had been staying there for 3 years, throwing myself into work alongside my team. 3 years later, we finally made some progress on our project, so I had to fly back for a presentation. Before leaving, the project team returned my phone. When I turned it on, a familiar voice greeted me. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. There were thousands of messages and missed calls waiting. I was about to put my phone away when I saw a message from my mom. Molly, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have treated you like that. Could you come back so I can apologize? We have our reasons. Please listen to me, okay? I miss you so much. Where are you? Are you even alive? Molly, have you abandoned us? I found it kind of amusing. There once was a time I valued time with them deeply. But since high school, I've been self-sufficient. The family's tough situation and heavy workload suffocated me. I often worried about not having enough money for the month and avoided meat in the cafeteria because my parents looked constantly exhausted. I was young, oblivious to the fact that chronically exhausted people couldn't possibly be so radiant. My parents rarely fell ill. Even when they weren't well, they soldiered on and recovered quickly. The needle marks on their hands and the luxury products at home should have tipped me off. They always said their boss was just being kind. Back then I was clueless. In retrospect, I shook my head and blocked their number, deleting all their contact info. As soon as I stepped off the plane, the reporters were there. Our research team had made a big breakthrough, and everyone noticed when we returned. It was normal to get media attention. Seeing the reporters, I knew my parents would find me again. After an interview with the team, I was about to head to the hotel when my mom breached security to reach me. She didn't directly approach me but addressed Professor Mike. Professor, I know your project needs a lot of funding. I can provide it. I'm Vice President Wendy. I'd like to discuss this with the young lady here. She wanted to talk to me and I smiled. Mike, this is my mom. But she's always limited my resources. Now she's offering millions. It sounds fishy, right? Mike caught on quickly. I accept students from humble backgrounds willing to work hard. If you're really a vice president, how come Molly applied for a scholarship for disadvantaged kids? Vice president? Enough with the name dropping. With a wave of Mike's hand, She was pushed aside, watching as I left. She shouted desperately, "Molly, I just want to talk." Her pleas were caught on camera and spread online. Unable to physically reach me, she tried to apologize through the internet. When netizens pressed her for the truth, she wouldn't reveal it. I couldn't stand watching her play victim online, so I reached out to resolve things in person. Knowing I wanted to meet, she was overjoyed and arranged for it to happen at the old house. Stepping into the villa again, emotions swelled in me, but I quickly hid them. When I arrived, my mom rushed at me, but I instinctively stepped back, avoiding her. Hurt but saying nothing, she, my dad, and both sets of grandparents settled across from me. Seeing this, I frowned. "Just say what you need to. Molly, we're sorry. We were in the wrong back then. When you were born, you were first. You looked healthy. But then a fortune teller said you were destined to clash with your brother. I didn't know what to do. Our tradition demands sons take over the business. You being around would harm him, so you needed to be separated. We thought about giving you away but couldn't. So the plan was to raise you modestly. That way, you wouldn't be as accomplished or pose competition to Henry. What we didn't expect was..." I interrupted her. "You didn't expect me to be this amazing, to be working on a project with someone like Mike. And now you feel guilty and want to apologize. If I'm right, your family's business relies heavily on this project. So, are you after the project's patent I'm working on? Or are you trying to use me? Just say it." I saw through their scheme with one sentence. My mom opened her mouth, but couldn't say a thing. After a while, she finally said, "It's not what you think." I shrugged. "Doesn't really matter anymore." My dad, on the other hand, chimed in, "Molly, you shouldn't think of us that way. We do care about you. Remember when you had a fever at 6, and we didn't have a car? I carried you all the way to the hospital. It was raining, I fell, but I got you there. Really? You could have called a cab but chose to run, which got me soaked and made my fever worse. A simple high fever turned into pneumonia, all thanks to you, dear Dad." As I said that, his expression turned sour. Then my grandparents chimed in, "Molly, please understand. They didn't mean to treat you like that. I just found it laughable. You all believed some fortune teller who said I brought bad luck, so you gave up on me. But now, Henry isn't wary of me? Gotcha." I took a deep breath and decided to leave, but my mom grabbed my hand. "No, don't go. Sorry, but my trip ends here. I might have to be interviewed later, so I won't be sticking around." As I was about to leave, my dad spoke in a low voice, "Molly, can't we just get along? We've raised you to be independent. Look at how you thrived elsewhere for 3 years. That's proof my upbringing wasn't so bad." I chuckled. "Oh, it was great. You dined at 5-star restaurants while I ate leftover takeout. Never had a new piece of clothing. Everything I wore was someone's hand-me-downs. I needed a uniform for school, and you got me a used one. It gave me a rash and made classmates laugh at me for being a scavenger. Do you know how it feels to be mocked throughout your teenage years? I only wanted fair treatment. If you'd treated me sincerely, maybe I'd have let it go. But the only regret I have now is being your child." I turned to leave. Even though he wanted the guards to stop me, I took a deep breath and said, "Think you can hold me back? With my status now, no businessman like you could possibly compete. Try me. If I'm not out that door in 5 minutes, see if the cops don't show up." Hearing that, my dad slumped into the sofa and waved for them to let me go. I left straight away. My mom yelled desperately behind me, but I ignored her. Late affection is worthless now, and whatever love they had for me died long ago. I realized this the moment I saw Henry. I came back, but this talk didn't make them realize I genuinely don't want them in my life. My mom even spoke to reporters, sharing our strained relationship, and they got so much hate online they shut down comments. My gosh, what kind of sick joke is this? I never imagined such superstitious parents in a wealthy family. Claiming 2 kids' horoscopes clash shows they're useless. Didn't they check all this when we were born? Molly and Henry are only a minute apart, so why's it Molly that curses Henry? I know Molly. She was my classmate, brilliant and outstanding. She's like a flower blooming against all odds. And Henry? That punk hit and ran, and his parents always paid people off. Now it's clear who's golden and who's rotten. Those parents are blind as bats, treating Molly so poorly. Revolting. The company's products all got bad reviews, and they had to disable comments on their website. Plus, people dug up a video from 3 years ago where they went on vacation with Henry. So Molly was left home alone then? That's probably when she was completely heartbroken. Molly left home at 22, heartbroken, to volunteer in the West. Thank goodness for her mentor Mike. Without him she might have been destroyed. Such double standards. I just shook my head and put down my phone. I've got more important things to focus on than this drama. But then Mike reached out to me. Molly, the project still needs work. There's an order to form a special team to tackle this challenge. It's confidential. Are you interested in joining? Of course I want in. What about your parents? He asked. I replied firmly, I've given up on them, Mike. You know what's online is true. I want no ties with them. I've already spelled it out for them. But if they keep bothering me, I'll need the organization to handle it. Mike understood right away. I intended to cut all ties officially, and since I've already moved my records, it'll be easy to walk away. Mike nodded, sighing, all right, Molly. I support whatever decision you make, as long as you won't regret it. I won't regret it. If 3 years ago, they'd shown any bit of kindness or sincerity, I wouldn't have given up on them. But now I know it was just one baseless prophecy dictating their actions toward me. I didn't know if the guru had said one more word, my life could have been in danger. At that time, I was almost taken away, and just thinking about it makes it hard to forgive them. So after Mike put my name out there, I dove right into work mode. I didn't tell anyone before leaving, except for Mike and a few close seniors. Before I left, my friends threw a going-away party for me. Looking at the fancy 5-star hotel, I couldn't help but think back to 3 New Year's Eves ago. My family was having dinner here, and I thought I'd never be good enough to walk in, let alone dine there. But here I was sitting with friends. Molly, don't worry. You'll have many opportunities. It's the hotel's honor to have you. Molly, your future's bright. Don't waste another thought on people who aren't worth it. Molly, you're amazing. I believe in you. Hearing my senior friend's encouragement warmed my heart. I never imagined Molly would be a name featured in the news and known by all. All my hard work didn't go unnoticed. I nodded, raising a glass with them, and I let myself get a little tipsy. That night I drank, and for once allowed myself to get drunk. With a slight buzz and a blast of cold air, I sobered up when I stepped outside. When I saw him standing there, I froze. Why is it him again? Henry showed up with a fierce look in his eyes. Molly, are you happy? The internet dragged my past into the light, accusing me of hit and run. Why did you come back? Since the guru said you're a curse, you shouldn't be in this world. Why don't you just die? As he rushed at me, knife in hand, I was shocked. Henry, despite being somewhat wealthy, was being absurdly reckless. As he closed in, someone in the dark tackled him to the ground, and a few others pinned him down. I found myself in a tight embrace. Molly, are you okay? I turned to see it was my mom, with my dad close behind. Bodyguards restrained Henry. My senior friends called the cops. Henry yelled, why? Let me go. You always said I was the only heir. Why now? You need the best lawyers. Why aren't you helping me? My folks took a deep breath. My dad slapped him hard. Because you're not worth it. Satisfied? We're giving everything to Molly. Go reflect. If you need jail time, do it. It's time to face the consequences of your cushy life. Henry broke down, but it was useless. The police arrived, captured clearly on the hotel cameras, and took him away. My parents turned to me, Molly, we're sorry. Dad apologized earnestly. Could you give us a chance to make it right? I'll hand the company over to you. I shook my head, stepping back from my mom's embrace. No thanks, I'm not interested. Mom quickly added, Molly, I know you want to do research. I'll set up a lab for you, anything you wish. Please give us a chance to make amends. That made me laugh. You want to make up, or you want to salvage Gardner's business. Mom, the stocks tanked, Henry's going to prison, business plummeting. And now you think of me? It's not that. She insisted, but I didn't want to listen, so I left with my seniors. That night's events were posted online, and Gardner Company became a target of public outrage. Overnight, my mom aged and Henry's arrest got highlighted in the media. Money couldn't save him this time, especially since my parents were in trouble too. Henry got 15 years for attempted murder and past offenses. My parents got 4 years for covering up his crimes. On sentencing day, I left town with my team, severing all ties with them forever. They tried to track me down, but Mike and the others stopped them, telling them to forget it. After learning about my classified assignment, they knew I wouldn't return, and they left defeated. Mike updated me when I nodded, showing I knew. It wasn't surprising. After Dad went to jail, Gardner went bankrupt. Mom fell apart and regretted it, but I wasn't ready to forgive. 10 years later, with the project completed, I settled and married an old classmate, started a family. With our child, my husband and I took extended leave to spend time with him. Seeing my child, I want the best for him, to give him everything. My husband says I'm over the top, but I laugh, knowing he doesn't quite get it. How can flowers of confidence grow in a home without love? If not for the many kind people who helped me, I'd have long gone astray. I wouldn't be where I am. When my husband learned of my past, he was baffled. Molly, rest assured, our child won't repeat the past. We'll give him all our love. Yes, that's a parent's duty, showering him with love so he can grow strong. For my son's 10th birthday, I took him to visit Mike. On the way back, he spotted a toy car at the mall he really liked. He tugged at my hand and pleaded, "Mom, dear Mom, can I use my New Year's money to buy it? I'll definitely manage my account well." The little guy handed me all his red envelopes. I pinched his cheek and pulled out one to let him make the purchase. He was instantly overjoyed. Just then, a shaky voice from behind asked Molly, "Is that you?" I turned around and saw my mom. Her hair was gray, and she looked worn out. She cried with joy when she saw me, covering her mouth and trying to come forward, but my partner stopped her. "Who are you? What do you want?" He heard her call me by my nickname, but still stood in front of her. I'd told him that I had no family anymore. Other than Mike, only my usual friends cared about me. So when my mom showed up, my partner immediately understood. My mom froze, looking at me. I said nothing, turned my back, and took my son inside to pay. Seeing me like this, she mumbled, "Sorry, I was mistaken." My partner, looking alert, stayed close until we finished buying, and left as a family of 3. I didn't glance back once. We just walked away. In the reflection of the glass, I saw her covering her face, crying uncontrollably. She cried about her regrets, but unfortunately, there's no regret medicine in this world. I don't believe parents don't love their children, but their different ways suffocated me. Now I've finally broken free and can soar freely. I'm choosing a path that's comfortable for me. I believe in love, and am not stingy about giving it. Only when cherishing those who value each other can one truly understand. The end.